We are back and excited to bring our first guest in, and that is none other than Vanderbilt Athletic Director Candice Lee, back from a very successful trip to Hawaii. How much fun was that?
Oh, it was wonderful. And of course, it's Hawaii, it's beautiful. And we won the game. And that was beautiful. But it's not just because of that. I mean, it was just a wonderful, wonderful trip for a lot of reasons. We had great alumni support. A lot of the families could come. It was truly very meaningful. We went to Pearl Harbor, and our student athletes got to do community service, and it was truly wonderful way to start the year.
In the 90s, with a Vandy basketball team that played in Honolulu, we took the trip to Pearl Harbor, and man, if that doesn't get to you, you have no heart.
I know. It's just it was especially meaningful for me coming from a military family. And my grandfather served, several uncles who served, and my father retired my freshman year. So he retired as a lieutenant colonel in the Army when I first got to Vanderbilt. And so it was just even more so for me, very touching.
I'm going to give you fair warning at the start. If I get out of hand, just,
what should I do?
Ask for Watson. He's in here as well. In fact, let's bring him up. And Watson, say hello to Candice Lee.
Hi, Watson.
Hi, Candice.
Hi.
Congratulations. What a first week that was. That was fantastic.
Oh, thank you. So really happy for all of us.
Yeah.
So Candice, you all come home and announce after you get back the deal with First Bank, the stadium naming rights. Talk to us a little bit about how that kind of thing goes down, and because I think people would be interested in just the whole machinery of how that happens.
Well, so one of our objectives is to, we need to be flexible enough to think about what are some innovative ways that we can have more connections here in the city, bring in more revenue, which is key. But we also want to retain the things that are special about Vanderbilt Athletics. And so, Dudley Field is, as I think you all know, we're going to celebrate our 100th anniversary of Dudley Field. And so it's a balance, right, of how you prepare for the future, but also be very thankful and grateful for what has come before. I'd say this conversation around corporate naming rights started in earnest about a year ago. And, that ideally we wanted to find a brand that also is very strong, that would be proud to be in partnership with us and could not only appreciate what had been done, but really see our vision for the future and want to be a part of it. And I was really pleased that there was quite a bit of competition. There are a lot of people interested, I think, in what Vanderbilt Athletics has been and is becoming. And I can't think of a perfect match than First Bank because of what they have done. And, they're sort of Nashville born and raised, just like Vanderbilt. And even just the core values with the impact that they want to have in the community and the way that they treat their employees, and just seemed like so much synergy from the very beginning. And the thing I also really appreciate about this relationship is that, it's taking care of a need by providing more revenue for athletics, but it's also the opportunity to integrate other parts of the university. So there's internship opportunities, and they're going to support some of the startup activities that happen on campus that we support as a university. And fully integrated, and I think it's actually a pretty cool model.
I'm guessing here, and you sort of steer me right or wrong, that
Okay.
At some point in those conversations, they said, okay, we're open to this. Tell us the things you want to do to improve the stadium down the road. You've brought some of those up in some of the diagrams and stuff that you've put out in the last 6 to 12 months. What did you tell them about that?
Thing that I've told every coach that we've hired, and really anybody who listened to me, we have a long-term plan with Vandy United. And, as you've alluded to, we've announced some of those pieces. This is going to be an ongoing effort, but what's important is to get on board now, because we're transforming the footprint, but we're also, I hope, changing the way that people perceive us in terms of the investment that we're making in athletics and the impact that we want to have. And that's not just for student athletes. It certainly starts with student athletes first and foremost, but also just for alumni to be proud, for how our status in the city, I hope, will change. As the college athletics landscape changes, I think having credibility as a department is really important. And I think that First Bank could see it. And again, you're only going to be partners with people who believe in your vision. And I think that we can say that about each other. So I shared with them, I think, exactly what they needed to see to show that we're serious. And then at the appropriate time, we'll continue to share more publicly.
In what you've put out,
Mhm.
as far as I can't think of the right word for the release of the pictures that you've put out about the stadium.
Oh, like the renderings.
Renderings.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
In the renderings, and we're looking at one of them right now.
Yeah. So what we're looking at right now, that's the south end zone. And that is currently where the tunnel is in
Right.
First Bank Stadium. That's where the tunnel is.
Do you want this ultimately to be a chairback stadium?
I would say ultimately, I think that's a good goal. Ultimately, I think that's a good goal. There's a lot of work that has to be done around seating. And so, when you think about those first two projects, those will be the most visible things that we've done in a very long time. But it's just a step of several steps that I think that we have to do around the stadium. And I think you bring up a very good point with seating. We actually looked at some seating options, and there are just so many steps that you have to take. Seating was not going to be something that we could do around the entire bowl this year. And we did start very small from a seat standpoint with replacing the seating in the suite area and in the bridge area. But there are incremental things that we will do short term as we prepare for the long-term vision.
Billy, if you will put that rendering back up for a second. I want to ask, I think it's the next one.
That one. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
the north end zone. So that would be like, imagine, that's the Marriott behind,
Right.
and then the parking garage to the right. And I want to be, these are certainly detailed renderings, and that the programmatic scope does support this picture, but it could change a little bit here and there. But certainly this is the concept.
When I see that picture, the first thing that comes to mind for me is Georgia Tech's end zone at Bobby Dodd Stadium. Is what that rendering is showing an academic center, an addition that's McGugin Center 2? What is that back there?
So that's the basketball practice facility. So what you're looking at, and so I'm glad you mentioned Georgia Tech. There are certainly other places that we looked at as well that have end zone facilities. So the end zone facility itself is not a novel idea, but what we do think is novel for us is that George, our footprint's very, very tight. So we sat down with Populous and continue to sit down with Populous, the architect we're using, and said, look, we've got to figure out how to maximize every inch here. So part of the intimacy, while we enjoy it, there's a point where like the football facility, the baseball facility, and the basketball facility actually literally touch. We know how close everything is. How do we maximize the space that we have? So what you have here is the basketball practice facility, where it is literally in the end zone. So the outside of it adds some premium seating for First Bank Stadium. There's also party decks. There's a lot of like drink rail and standing room space, a lot of social space. And then inside, that's a 4-story building. And so the plan is for men's basketball to occupy one level. Women's basketball will occupy one level. And by occupy, we mean all of that day-to-day stuff like the coaches' offices, recruiting space, locker rooms. And then there will be shared space in between that will include like equipment room, weight room, rooms where they can eat pregame meals and have hospitality. That hospitality space can also be used on football game day. And then that building, the north end zone building, the basketball practice facility, will physically connect to Memorial by way of a walkway. So that's what you're looking at. There is multi-purpose space in everything that we're building so that, it can benefit the entire community. But that is primarily a basketball space that we were just looking at.
Let me bring Watson back in because he probably knows more about this than anybody.
George, we actually lost Watson.
We lost him. He
oh my gosh, is that personal?
Look, hey, Candace, after something I did to him yesterday, it could be. I created a segment called Ask Granddad.
That's funny. And I'm sorry for laughing at that.
No, you know what? Look, he cracked up laughing yesterday. Hopefully we'll get him back in here.
Okay, I hope so.
Yeah, in a couple of minutes. So you're right about the fact that you have very little space to work with due to the Marriott, due to a series of things. It is a really tight deal. Mm-hmm. Does any of what we see in those pictures affect baseball? And I'm told Watson's back. So let's bring him up here. Sure. And get him in. Anything affect baseball there?
So if you want to go back and show renderings, do you want to, George, pull up?
Yeah.
So
we are.
So can you go back a picture? Okay. So go back one more for me. Okay. So this is, sorry about that. I don't remember the order of the pictures, but so what we're looking at now is the south end zone. That's where the tunnel currently is. So there will be a club area that extends all the way across this new building in the end zone. And that club area will also allow patrons and fans to be able to look at football, but also look out onto baseball. So that is a baseball connection here. But we have said publicly that we are currently in the design phase for changes that we will make to Hawkins. And so that is above and beyond this.
Yeah. Watson, you know more about this than I do. I should have let you lead off on this. You take as much time as you want. We'll go to the break at normal around 36 or 38, and then feel free to take a little more.
Candice, first, congratulations. I'm one of those that believes that football can be productive in the SEC. I truly believe that.
I do too.
And I know you do. And this is a step to me. Start with the stadium. I'll come back and ask you some other things as we go.
Okay.
Where I didn't see I've been off air, so I couldn't tell. Where do the players come into this? The tunnel looked like it was gone in the south end. So are they still going to come from their dressing room, walk across the street, do the same things? And where do they come out?
They are. So you can't tell from that rendering. And sometime later we can actually show you these designs. You can't tell from that. But yeah, the players would actually enter. So there is field access from that building.
Okay.
And there would be the opportunity to, in essence, emulate Star Walk, where fans would be able to look down and see our student athletes coming across the street into their game day locker room, and then they would access the field from that space. I'm just not able to show you from this rendering. And again, this is a rendering really just meant to capture the general concept of what that end zone is going to look like. It's not exact. But it's, you know how renderings are, just to give you an idea. But yeah, they would access right through the middle there. You just can't tell.
Okay. And what seating capacity did this do? Did it take seats out? Did it add seats? What will that do to the stadium?
Reduced it just a little, not much, but no, we went down. We will go down a little bit.
But that's a good thing to me, because you're going to be able to get preferred seating, which is very much needed. And is that some of that end zone right there? Again, I didn't get to hear the early parts.
That's right. Yeah. So there'll be a lot more. Right now we really don't have a lot of premium options, right? So in the short term, that's why we've got that north end zone loge area, which is sort of a temporary opportunity to have upgraded seating in addition to suites and the current bridge seating. So yeah, a lot of what these end zone projects will do will be to provide more amenities, starting with seating and some hospitality for our fans. So you're correct. You're correct in that.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. What is your time frame, Candace? When will this start? How long will it take? What will it do to the football team, I remember when we were there and the first redo of the stadium, with offices when I was the head coach there, when we were redoing stadium and redoing McGugin. And so how will this affect the football team and the timing of it?
Yeah, so these first two projects really won't impact the football team day to day much. When we start on McGugin, that's when the football team will be more impacted, as will all of our student athletes. So we'll have to have good transition plans there. That is part of the, I guess the rationale behind the timing and the steps that we're taking is you're trying to be as least disruptive as possible. So I'll start with the basketball practice facility. Construction has already begun on that. Actually, you just won't be able to really tell probably to just the general passerby until the season is over. But gate 1, which is the gate that is at the corner of what is that, Kensington and Natchez Trace behind the Marriott, that main gate on the corner, that's going to remain closed all of this season because of construction. The timeline on the basketball practice facility is that it should be substantially complete, ready for move-in in the spring of 24. So spring, summer 24. That's the north end zone. The south end zone, construction would begin on that in the spring. And it will take 2 full football seasons to complete that project. So there, my guess, I envision that when we get to like the 23 season and the 24 season, we'll have to redirect how fans enter and exit the facility, but trying to minimize disruption as much as possible.
Candace, hang with us. We'll go to a commercial break and
Okay.
then come back and do a little bit more in the second segment.
Great. Thank you.
Vanderbilt Athletic Director Candice Lee, our guest this afternoon, and stay tuned. You're watching Main Street Media Television. We are back. When I say we, that does not include Watson Brent. We're having some trouble with his Zoom link. I guess that's the way you say it. It's interesting because also on board with us is Vanderbilt Athletic Director Candice Lee. And when we bring her back up, her Zoom link is incredibly good, very clear. Watson's, on the other hand, was clear as mud. We'll get him back in here eventually. But Candace, tell me a little bit. You're in, like everybody, you're in the ticket selling business. And I felt bad a year ago. The East Tennessee State loss at the beginning had to be a real downer in that, trying to sell tickets from that point on. This year, you open with this victory. Not that people didn't see it coming necessarily, but probably not 63-10. What's that done in the ticket office?
It's always an effort on our part to, it's not just, it's like the status of the program certainly plays a role, but also the fact that, games are televised. And a lot of times you're also competing against television and people being able to sit at home or in a more comfortable setting. And that's why, I think that's part of what Watson was getting to earlier when he talked about it's still being okay to reduce capacity because of the amenities. Because when you're in Nashville and you go to a Predators game, you go to a Titans game, you go to watch Nashville SC, you go to any of these opportunities in the city, you're used to a certain level of amenity and access and resources. So I think that alone is something where we know we've got to be prepared to compete with that and give people, I want people to look at Vanderbilt and say it's an opportunity where I'm gonna get to bring my family at a decent price, support young people that are easy to support, and watch a game where they win. All right. I mean, you want to see competitive games. We understand that. We're building a football program, and I think Hawaii was a great next step, but we're on a journey. When you're building something that's worth sustaining, you do not do it overnight. But I keep getting asked like, well, what's your expectation? And, what's your prediction? And my prediction is still the same, that we're going to be proud of the progress that we see from Team 2. And that's, I hope that progress does translate to more people wanting to be a part of it.
Candace, the landscape in college athletics is the murkiest I have ever seen it. There are times where I wonder why anybody would want to be a coach when you're dealing with transfer portal and NIL and all this stuff. When you all meet as a conference, what are you all talking about? Just, if nothing else, on those two fronts.
Yeah, so I am very particular about, I don't share what happens in those meetings, but what I will say is that probably what you're imagining is what we're talking about, the future of college athletics. I'm proud that we're in the SEC because I think the SEC is going to lead and help determine what happens in the future state. But certainly the two things that you talked about, NIL and transfer and the transfer portal, those are two realities that change the student athlete experience. They change recruiting, they change retention. And so it does put a lot more pressure on coaches and us as administrators, just overall us as athletic departments. But, we're talking about how to lead in this space. That's what we talk about at the SEC. And, we've got who I think is the best leader in college athletics, and Greg Sankey as our commissioner. And so we're in very good hands. But we have a lot of work to do, as an industry. That is not a surprise. So we spend a lot of time talking about that.
You hear the narrative because it's out there everywhere. Heck, I was totally this way at the start. NIL is bad. There's nothing good there. And yet all of a sudden I see these stories of scenarios where athletes who have some heart do some really good things with it that don't always get discussed. I'm guessing you see some of that. What do you see?
Well, so here's what I think about. So I think the concept of name, image, and likeness is not bad. So a person being able to monetize their name and their reputation, I don't think that that's bad. I think that where NIL gets criticized is when it becomes disproportionately influential in recruiting, and where people began to view it as pay for play, which is not the same as NIL. So there is a distinction there. And I think that you're right. I mean, you bring up NIL as the question, but I would just tell you in general, one of the great privileges of sitting in this seat is seeing all of the amazing things that our student athletes do. Amazing things that they do every day that, quite frankly, they don't always get credit for, because it's not as fun to talk about those things for some people, right? But there are some amazing stories, and NIL is just one way that I think our student athletes can leverage their talents. We have student athletes that have their own, 501c3s. We have, they're running companies. They're doing all kinds of things. They're amazing. And so NIL does give them an opportunity to showcase it, but it's not the only way.
Are you surprised at how many positives have come out of it?
No. I'm not surprised. I'm not
Because
surprised.
I'll admit, either I was really closed-minded to it, or just so used to the narrative of paying players is bad. It's opened my eyes a little bit.
Yeah, I think there is probably some cynicism that a lot of people had around it, right? Because the way you described it, sort of pay for play. But I think when you really unpack it and understand what it is, I'm not surprised at the abuses that we hear in the narrative, and I'm not surprised at the good things either.
Give me maybe your, I don't know how to say the word, but if you could step in and make the transfer portal better, what would you do?
Oh man, good question. You know what? I'm not going to sit here and play NCAA czar. What I will say is that what I can, somebody needs to, but that will not be me. But what I do care about, though, I think that a young person having the option to make a different decision is okay, because we as coaches and administrators have the opportunity to do that too. But so in general, I don't think, transferring is a problem. What is more important to me is that we bring in young people that we believe will be good fits to our community, and then we nurture those relationships. sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it doesn't work on either side, and that's okay. But I would rather, I want to spend less time on lamenting about the rules. And that does not mean that we don't work to change them, because we certainly are vocal where we need to be vocal. I would rather spend my time focused on how we nurture the relationships that we have, and how I, create conditions for our coaches where they feel like they can do that too.
So you've got all this stuff going on that we've
Mhm.
kind of laid out in the renderings, and thank you for the help on why that word wouldn't come up. I have no
No,
idea. But what's kind of next on your agenda, if you will?
Well, I mean, Vandy United is all encompassing. It's comprehensive, and Vandy United is not just about raising money. Big part of it is raising money, but it's also about enhancing the fan experience. And there are lots of ways to do that, right? It's with the amenities we talked about before, but it's also alumni feeling welcome and coming back home, and us being more present in the community. And just my goal, right? My job and my goal is to make sure that this athletics department is ready to compete at the highest level. At the highest level, as the world around us is changing, if we focus on being our best selves, then I'm not concerned about what the future looks like. But we have a lot of work to do.
You ready for this one to end it? Because this is one goofy question.
Sure.
You probably, having been so close to that seat before you became the athletic director, probably said, I know what I'm getting into. But when you sit in that seat, what's the thing that no level of experience prepares you for, that you could tell me that maybe would shock me?
I might just correct a little bit and say that, and I do understand, as the deputy, I was a deputy athletic director for 4 years, but there's only one seat, right? And the person who sits in the seat is the one who knows the knows what to do. I mean, I certainly learned a lot from David, but he was the athletic director. I was not. And then, worked for Malcolm for, almost 12 months, but he was the athletic director. I was not. And so certainly I saw a lot of things, but it's certainly different when you make a recommendation or you jump in and provide a little input and jump out, and when you're the one who makes the decision. Those are two very distinct roles. And so I was talking to our guest services staff last night, and they are oftentimes going to be sort of the front line when patrons are in our facilities. And I told them that they're part of my leadership team. They're part of the department that I'm leading, because they're going to touch people sort of in the name of Vanderbilt Athletics, which I'm responsible for, and how they interface is important to me. And one of the biggest things that's the challenge is that as the athletic director, like, you're going to create the vision, you're going to provide the strategy and the resources, but you literally can't be every place, right? So you have to entrust the people around you. And there are so many stakeholders, and there are so many things and people that impact the narrative that you are ultimately responsible for. That's both humbling and also presents a great opportunity. But I can tell you that as much as, and I treasure the people that I've learned from and the lessons that I've learned, but there is nothing like sitting in the seat. Because the thing is, right, you may think but you sit in the seat and you inherit all the things that come with it. And when you're me, people kind of get their ears confused. So, gosh, I get people say to me, you remember when I told you da 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 da? And I'm like, that was not me. I know I've been here a long time, but I went in that meeting. I was not the AD then. I was not making that decision. But it's sort of par for the course when you've been around for a while. But there's a lot of things that I think help prepare you from a skill standpoint, but a lot of it, you have to learn it in the seat. And it's certainly a great privilege to do it, but
that's the way it is.
That's the way it is.
Yeah.
That's right. That's the way it is.
Okay, so you've gotten through this unscathed. I promise the next time, if I have to bring him from Cookeville, we will get Watson in here, because I wanted him to be a part of this. And I'm sorry we couldn't make it work that way.
Well, I
But,
didn't. I mean, I do feel like I got through it unscathed, but I wasn't scared to. I didn't think y'all were going to beat me up. I thought we were going to have a great conversation about Vanderbilt, and that's what I felt. And so I'm happy to come back and talk when Watson is able to get on. I'm happy to do that anytime because I want to talk very openly. We got a big job, but we got the people to do it. And I'm excited about it. And so we can have all the conversations that you all want to have. If I can't answer it or don't want to, I won't. But I'm happy to be here, George, and I appreciate you. I really do. So
hey, thank you for taking the time to come
Of
on.
course.
We'll issue the invitation again soon.
it's great. Thank you so much. Hey, and I know I sent you a note, but congratulations to you on
Thank
your
you.
induction. That's
You
amazing.
know what was cool about that, Candace? There's a table, and I think I may have sent you this. If not, I'll send you a picture of it.
Yeah.
The first Vanderbilt team I ever broadcast in the early 80s in basketball, about half of them were there that night. And I got to be honest,
That's
that felt
fantastic.
good. Barry Booker, Will Purdue,
Yeah.
Glenn Clem, Steve Reese, Petro. I'm not sure they behaved very well, but it was great.
Well, that's
to have
all right.
them. Yeah, it was great to have them there. And they're sitting back there going, what the hell? How did he get in this? You know, they were saying
like,
that.
George? But you bring up those are the
what it's all
intangible
about.
parts that mean so much, right? The relationships that I was thinking about that when you asked initially about going to Hawaii. Like the thing that I will remember a lot about that trip. But one thing that sticks out is us taking Jimmy Williams' wife and son with us on that trip. I mean,
yeah,
that's all. That's awesome.
That's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Take care.